to show you?
Hell yeah.
Welcome to the Horror Syndicate Discourse. It is Wednesday night, and we do the show every single Wednesday. Tonight, we were talking about you just saw last night in Soho, and that's what we're talking about. So I have nothing witty to say because I had a frustrating time with my computer. I'm using my Chromebook, which is much more difficult. I got to use the touchscreen. Yeah. Anyway, I'll just introduce the guys with Jared. Jared, how you doing?
Good. How are you? Obviously, not. You're not as good as I am with your.
I'm sick and I'm frustrated, so doing great.
You do sound a little nasally.
Thanks. I lost my voice for Saturday and Sunday, so that was fun. And I'm hacking up all kinds of. I wanted to make sure our names look like what's coming out of my throat and my nose. So that's
slime green.
Yes, I do want to know. Do you have some trivia for us tonight?
I mean, I have a couple, but I really wanted us to just kind of dive deep in this movie because it's not something we've talked about before.
Yeah, and
so I have a couple.
I'm suspecting you like this one. Okay.
How do you spell that, Jared?
Yeah. I mean, it's no what's that movie that you like so much, Neon Demon? But anyway, Nate, how you doing?
I will go on the record and say it's better than Neon Demon for sure.
But you love Neon Demon.
I do.
So you then, if this is better, then you personal preference, I guess. Nate, what about you? Did you like this one? I thought it was great when I first saw it.
Yeah, I like this one. I'm a big Edgar Wright fan.
Oh, same here. I was just gonna wait till we got to the meat and potatoes before I talked about that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's fine.
Off.
And a moment with Jason Voorhees. Yeah, so I like this movie. I saw it last year. It popped up on HBO Max, and I didn't really have any thoughts on it. I'm not an Edgar Wright fan or anything like that. I mean, I could probably name a couple of his movies, and I don't like one of them in particular. You guys know which one I'm talking about.
Because it was done to death.
Yeah.
I remember you talking about that, like how many times you've seen that movie and it just rubs you the wrong way now.
It just ruined it, So, but anyway, I'm not when we talk about, I'm not a director. I don't follow directors in their work like a lot of you guys. I know both of you do. So that didn't impress me. The thing that got me wanting to watch this was the lead actress and Matt Smith. Well, one of the leads, I should say. Anya.
Yeah.
Joy Taylor. I can never remember the names of the hyphens always mess me up. But I really like her after seeing her in The Witch, and again later in The Menu. She was really good. And the other one, Thomasin McKenzie, I'm not familiar with her, but she was really good in this.
She was in a lot of good movies like Jojo Rabbit and Leave No Trace with Ben Foster.
Haven't seen that either.
It's a good one. Yeah,
I looked at her filmography and I hadn't seen anything. I'm one of those guys that just watches things that kind of tickle my fancy. So, like Jojo Rabbit, I saw the trailer and everybody was raving about it, and I was like, no, it doesn't look like I want something I want to watch.
It's got Taika in it, though.
I don't care about Taika.
Taika playing Hitler.
Taika Waititi.
Sam Rockwell.
I like Sam Rockwell. I do like Sam Rockwell.
Sam Rockwell play a Nazi.
I mean,
it was goofy fun.
If I ever get around to seeing it, maybe I will. That's the thing about the streaming age, is you have the choice. Back in the day, if this was just on TV, like, well, this is what's on, and I'll watch it, and now you get the choice, and that's probably why I don't see as many movies as I used to, because of The fact that I can choose whether or not to watch Jojo Rabbit or whatever.
You might dig Leave No Trace. Her and Ben Foster, he's her dad, and they live off the grid. And then they get found out, and they're trying to
on the run type of
force them back into just on their own choice. Like they're not on the run from the law. It's just that they want to disappear from. He doesn't want her in society. So they're kind of trying to force them to rejoin society against their will.
Actually,
they've been living on their own.
I think there was something I saw her in.
She was in that old movie, M. Night Shyamalan.
Yeah, I really like that. A lot of people didn't like that movie, but I actually enjoyed that. Oh, she's in The Hobbit at some point. Leave No Trace, like you said. A Changeover. I'm not sure what that even is. Yeah. Lost Girls. The Justice of Bunny King. All right. I like her.
Really starting. I mean, she's only I think 18 when they did this movie.
So she was really young. She's 22 now. So yeah, man, she's super young, but she's super talented also. So I really liked her in this, and actually the whole cast is pretty well rounded. You sent pictures over of an older Terrence, or younger, a younger Terrence Stamp, which, like, look at how beautiful that dude is. I love him.
Have you seen that film there?
I don't know what that is. What is it?
It's called The Collector. It's from 1965, and he plays a guy who is stalking a young art student, and then he kidnaps her and keeps her in his basement.
Oh, wow. That sounds good.
It's one of his first movies, like his third or fourth movie.
Do you know if it's streaming?
I don't know. I saw it like 20 years ago, 25 years ago or so.
An art student. So not totally far.
Not too far from this.
Yeah, I know, that's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
And, of course, we all know him as Zod. From Superman.
Yeah, he
voiced the Queen of the Desert.
He also voiced Jor-El in Smallville, and he's in Young Guns, and he was also a Chancellor Valorum in Star Wars Episode 1.
Delimey, and then Diana Rigg. He cast a lot of people. He cast a lot of British actors. Like, Hot Fuzz is full of British actors. Diana Rigg from the Avengers TV show, 1960s.
Which I've seen that show. How weird is that?
Yeah. She was like a sex symbol back then.
Yeah, I can tell.
Yeah. And then, she kind of had a resurgence a few years ago on Game of Thrones.
Mm-hmm. She was great in Game of Thrones, though.
Yeah.
She was amazing. She's one of my favorite characters, actually. But yeah, I really liked her. I like her in this, too. And unfortunately, she passed before the movie was even released.
Yeah, that's what I heard, too.
Yeah. Did I step on your toes?
No. Okay. I mean, it says right at the beginning for Diana.
Yeah. It's a shame. She was really good, really good actress with good career. And then the grandmother I'm not familiar with here.
Yeah, I was just watching this film. I didn't know her, but this movie she got a lot of attention for. It's her name is Rita Tushingham, and I was just watching this one on Criterion, and it's on HBO as well. It's called A Taste of Honey, and came out in 1961. And she plays this young girl in some part of England with her single mother, and her mom doesn't really give her much attention, and she's dating this other man, and the man doesn't like her, and she starts seeing this chef on a ship, and he gets her pregnant, but then he ships off. So that's where I'm at right now. I got like 40 minutes left.
Oh, you're not done? Okay. Yeah. I was
pretty good.
I was watching that documentary on Waco. I was like enthralled by it. And I was like, oh shit, I got to do the show. And then like we talked about Thomason and here they both are.
Anya Taylor-Joy.
It's Anya Taylor-Joy and Matt Smith. I love Matt Smith, and he was good in this too, I thought. But yeah, those are the kind of the central characters. Terrence Stamp's role, I can't believe he's like 82 years old and still getting around and doing things really well. He's a hell of a
80s man, as he says.
He is. Yeah, he is.
I still am. This was a movie that this was my most anticipated movie of 2021.
Was it?
Because I just love Edgar. Like Baby Driver is one of my all-time favorite films.
Oh, that's the movie I was thinking
this
of.
is what he followed up with Baby Driver. So I was like, oh man, I guess, and I knew this was going to be more of a straight horror because usually he does comedies. And I mean, I love the Cornetto trilogy, as they call it: Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, and what's the last one?
The World's End.
World's End, and then my daughter and I have a love affair with Scott Pilgrim. We just watch that all the time. Just, he's one of the most. I think he's like this generation's Sam Raimi because his style and he's just a very inventive, creative guy when it comes to how he structures his films and the chances. I'll talk about later when we get into the directing and all that, but. He's just I dig him as a person too, and he's a big music fanatic. So his movies always have really great music.
Especially this one
has a lot. Yeah,
this Baby Driver is one of the soundtrack.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we'll get into that. I've got the categories up. We didn't do that last week. Was Scream, right? Yeah, we didn't get to do it last week, but I've got the categories back up. With the cinematography and all that jazz. Now, Nate is. Your daughter planning on joining us for a little bit or no?
I doubt it.
Okay. When you said that, I was like, "Oh, she's up for it." Yes, please.
We were sitting there talking, but now she's like dragging ass,
Teenager.
She's poo pooing the idea now.
Yeah, that's okay. No. We'll get her. We'll get them on here one of these days. I'll drag one of my kids out. Helena would probably love to be on. I don't know what she talked about though, but anyway, why don't we start off with Jared's trivia, and then that way we can jump into talking about the things we love in the movie, because there's a lot in this movie that I just like. When I watched it, I did not expect it to be as good as I thought it was, and I wish I would have seen it before we did our list for the top 20 or whatever it was for 2021, because this would have been my number one for sure. This movie blew me away. I had so much fun with it. The great performances all the way around. It's beautifully shot. I love, it reminded me, and you guys, I don't know if you'll agree with me or not, of almost like Edgar Wright is paying homage to an Argento in a way, an Argento film in some ways, especially with the way it's shot and the way it's lit. I don't know if that's just something I saw, or if you guys kind of had that train of thought as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a shot where she comes in from the rain that I think is pulled straight from Suspiria. Like he did it as an homage.
Yeah.
I know Polanski's Repulsion and Don't Look Back are the two biggest influences, I believe, on the film. I saw. It may be in Jared's stuff. I mean, it's some of his tidbits.
Yeah, let's do that real fast.
Yeah.
Not that. All right, Jared.
That picture cracks me up every time.
Every time.
Every time. Like I said, I don't have very many of them because I kind of wanted to get into the discussion of the film itself. Mm-hmm. Obviously, this was the final performance of Diana Rigg. They had something at the beginning and something at the end credits for her. I really don't know much about her breadth and length of an actress, but I mean, her performance in this movie was very chilling, how calm she was. And that was the little old lady from Game of Thrones, right?
Yeah.
God, she's so good.
She is.
She's so good.
Yeah. And rest in peace.
Yes, rest in peace for sure. Please.
If anybody hasn't seen the Avengers, she started in season 4, and I think all her seasons are on Prime for free to stream.
Oh, are they really? I watched that show when I was a kid, and I really liked it. It was on something somewhere. I don't know if I remember any of it, but I know I watched a lot of it. When I got my first Avengers comic book, I'm like, hold on, this isn't the right thing. Anyway, what else you got there, Jared?
I got a couple of them.
All right.
Some of them are just funny anachronisms, but one of them is something that is character related.
Okay.
because after Sandy is in the dressing room and Eloise, Ellie, they kind of meld together. Wouldn't Ellie have started smoking cigarettes too? That was something that I noticed. That was kind of interesting. Um, Another one was a date. I didn't even realize it because I'm not that old, but the musical act in the our what is it, the Rialto, the puppet on the string act. I guess that did not come out until 1967, but this is supposed to be around 1965 because Thunderball is in theaters. So that's like a 2-year difference. Right. Another one is just another weird yearly difference. When she first goes back in time in her dreams, Thunderball is premiering on the main marquee screen, but on the right there is another movie that's called Darling that is on the coming soon list, but actually in reality that movie came out before Thunderball. So I mean, it's just little stupid stuff like that. Like there's really not a whole lot of. I mean, I get some of these from IMDb, but I also do like search other areas. But there's not a lot of goof ups in this movie when it comes down to that stuff. I like to try to find goof ups.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of a good thing, though. I mean,
he's a pretty sharp guy when it comes to his pop culture and choices and things. So it's kind of shocking that he had some that were off.
Okay, I got my computer rolling back up, so I'm gonna be able to do the pictures and stuff better.
But I'm good. I had a couple of them. I didn't really want to drown it with that because I wanted to kind of. This is a movie we haven't really discussed at all, so I want to kind of get to that.
I don't think we've even discussed it within the chat. Like I think maybe like in passing or something like that. I pretty much I know I mentioned it after I saw it, which was late last year. But yeah, it's this computer. I need a new computer. Let's help Ray get a new computer, guys. All right, so I do have all those images you sent me, Nate, so we can go over those when we get into all that stuff. But the first thing I want to just kind of get into was the writing or the story. And anybody want to explain what this movie is about?
I can if Jared doesn't want to.
I was gonna say, I mean, it does kind of feel like Suspiria in a way, but just in a different avenue. But go ahead, you're much better with words than I
am. Writing them. Okay, so this character here, this is the opening of the film. That is Eloise, and she is a small town girl in England who is obsessed with the 1960s, and she wants to go to London, and she wants to be a clothing designer, and she gets accepted into school in London for that, and so she goes to the big city with these images of what she thinks it's going to be, which is she's kind of naive and that she's stuck in this breakfast at Tiffany's world, or not. I mean, that's not London, but she goes there and then she gets hit right in the face with reality that the world is kind of a shitty place and people are shitty and dangerous and out to get you and not kind. And she's someone who really hasn't been around a lot of men. She doesn't know her father. He was never there. So she was raised by her grandmother because her mother passed away when she was 7. And she just is bombarded with city life and bullies and shit like that. So she decides to get her own place and she rents this apartment from this older lady. And then she has this gift of she's almost a medium or something. She has visions of things, and so she starts to dream, or she's seen the past, and she goes into it's like time travel in her dream world into the 1960s that she thinks but she dreams about it. She puts on her music, she goes there, and when she's in there, she kind of takes the place of another young woman who came to London in the 1960s, and she starts to live through this woman's life in her dreams and escapes to it, and then things start to crumble. The reality sets in for that woman as well, and so really, I guess the overall movie is about what Edgar Wright said. A lot of movies in the '60s were about young women who came to London with big dreams and had them basically crushed over the course of their films. So that's kind of the gist of what the film is.
Yeah, and it's really cool. Like, I didn't know what it was. I didn't know. That's one of my questions I had for my segment was like, what was her deal? Why was she able to transport herself? You showing off that hoodie? What color is that?
Hazard orange.
Hazard orange. Okay. Anyway,
roadside worker orange.
Roadside worker orange. It almost looks peach.
Must be the coloring on his screen.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Anyway, I got distracted when you were trying to show us your crotch again. So, anyway, yeah, I mean, I do like where this story goes, and you don't know exactly what's going to happen. And I know there's a couple of times I was surprised, especially towards the end with everything that's going on, which we'll get into a little bit in a minute. I'm looking at, let's see. Well, let's get into the story a little bit. What are some of the things you liked and didn't like about it? I'm going to go get my water. I'll be right back. I got pictures too, Nate. Just so you know, those ones like this.
Yeah, you can always throw something up because I didn't really pick a scene. I just gave you.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of great images that came from this. Like,
not just any one particular scene.
Right. Yeah. That's why I always watch to try to figure out what I'm sitting here thinking. What's he going to come up with this week? Like, this one here is kind of early, isn't it?
Yeah, that's when she first sees Sandy.
When they first meet. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll be right back. Talk about that.
Well, that first scene where she goes in the 1960s, I love that scene, especially how the Celia Black song plays, "You're My World," and she comes out of that alleyway, and that music just explodes, and you see the Thunderball sign on the marquee, and she's in the middle of the street, and it's just like her dream come true. Like, it's like I'm in the 1960s, and there's all the neon lights. So Soho is a part of London, and I didn't know what Soho was till this film. I guess it's kind of like the cool part of London. There's a lot of neon and a lot of shit, a lot of cool stuff. It was a big part of that culture, and
I thought Soho was in New York, just so you know.
He always, well, I think there is a Soho in New York.
Is there? Okay.
Yeah, but apparently this is he's always wanted to make a movie there, and they used to make a lot of movies in Soho, he said, but they don't really make them anymore. So he wanted to show Soho on screen again.
You think Soho has become derivative? It was from American Psycho. Never mind.
It kind of gives you the vibe that it was London's version of Broadway, kind of like not necessarily just the theater aspect, but just the shiny lights, kind of like
the happened a place to be.
The main drag in Las Vegas in the '60s, like that was the it street for London.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although I don't know if it's cool. I don't know if it had anything to do with like a red light district, because I think originally the title was going to be something like that, about red light district, because we do see that that's what you see outside, but inside we're seeing brothels and a lot of
you get kind of
burlesque shows and
Sandy ends up getting into that world too.
Yeah.
Which is what that room kind of becomes, is her place to take them in. She goes to be a star, to be the headline singer at, was it the Rialto, or where was it? I already forgot the name.
I think it's Rialto.
Yeah. So, and Matt Smith. First of all, I gotta mention, does he dance in every movie he's in? Because I swear he does. He even danced in Morbius. But he dances with her, and I actually really like that scene of those two dancing and
It's one of the
going
coolest
over
fucking
them.
scenes in the movie.
Yeah, it's very fun and very kind of reminiscent of something from the '60s, you know. So you know they hide in that booth and then they go out and run on the strat. I
That
like
was
that
a
whole thing.
that was a real place in Soho, and Diana Rigg remembers going there when she was young in the '60s, and she said when they had to build that set because it's a
Mhm.
little. She went in there. She goes, "Wow, I remember walking down these stairs," and she goes, "This looks just like it." And she says, "It's a little bigger though, isn't it?" And they go, "Yeah, we made it a little bigger, for the cameras and everything."
Yeah, they have.
He
They
goes,
had to.
"That's how sharp her eye and her memory was." That she's like, "I remember it being smaller than this, but this looks just like it."
That's really cool
Yeah,
because that
yeah,
does look like the place to be, doesn't it? It's kind of underground in a way too because you got to go down two flights of steps essentially because you walk in the first door and that's where that picture
yeah.
was when she realized that she wasn't herself, which was kind of a cool moment, because she's just and people are walking past her and she's just kind of amazed that she could see this, which this does get kind of set up with, I'm guessing, I guess that was her mom in the beginning of the movie
In the
where,
mirror.
yeah, so
Yeah.
you get the sense that she's got some kind of supernatural type power, and I think this would be cool to be able to relive the past like that. Like she's reliving the past through somebody else. Not exactly that, because as the story unfolds, we see what happens to Sandy,
Yeah.
and it's terrible. You
I
know.
think it's. I think overall one of the coolest thing about the movie is this nostalgia for the past that we didn't experience ourselves. Everyone
Hmm.
has this romanticized version of, like, a lot of young people are think the '80s was just an amazing time, and I was a kid, so it was kind of an amazing time. But if I were an adult, I would be like, yeah, we had crack, we had AIDS, we had Reagan. There's a lot of
Yeah,
bad shit that happened in the
gas
'80s.
crisis and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
gas. I mean, there was a lot. Every decade has a bad time, but, like, she's probably thinking, well, all the men are debonair and suave and
Hmm.
nice, but men were always fucking cheating on their wives and fucking, like, doing this type of shit, and beating their wives and all. I mean, the Stepford wife. There was no life was not the movies. Life was always
Yeah.
hard. People were shit. Racism, sexism, uh, anti-Semitism, all this shit was going on in the '60s and the '50s, but everybody looks back at it. Oh, what a more pure, wholesome era. I was like, no, life wasn't the movies. Life was just as shitty as it is right now for people. And
Only the music
so,
was better.
yeah, so she has this whole. She's so obsessed with the '60s that she forgets to pack her socks. She packs her albums before she packs her
Yeah.
socks. Like, she's
Hmm.
not even thinking about necessities. Like, so she's so consumed. And one thing I noticed, a little detail in her room, she does that whole dance in the beginning, and
Hmm.
she stops by the Breakfast at Tiffany's and mimics Audrey Hepburn.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And then, but on the other wall is a poster for Sweet Charity. And Sweet Charity, I've never seen Sweet Charity, but Sweet Charity is based on a Fellini film called The Knights of Cabiria, which I have seen, and I fucking love that
Well, you
movie.
can't see it in this picture though.
Yeah, it's on the other wall above her bed, I
Oh,
think.
okay.
And it's Sweet Charity. Sweet Charity was a play, and the movie had Shirley MacLaine in it. And but it's based on the screenplay for Knights of Cabiria, which is a Federico Fellini movie. And in that movie, Fellini's wife plays a streetwalker
Mm.
in Italy, and in the very beginning of the movie, she gets her boyfriend or husband, I can't remember, takes every dime she has and throws her in the river, trying to kill her, I guess. And some kid fishes her out of the water, and she goes back to the street. And she's walking the street, and she sees this famous film director come out of a hotel and breaks up with his wife or girlfriend, and he takes her, just get in my car. So she gets in the car, and he takes her out on the night town, like in a nice nightclub and all that. And but it's this movie about this prostitute, and it's like the underbelly of things. But then she gets to go live the high life and all that. But it's this very kind of depressing movie. So in the Sweet Charity, Shirley MacLaine isn't a prostitute. She's what I didn't know it. She's called what they call a taxi dancer, which sounded like you pay someone that like beautiful girls to dance with you,
Right.
or like kind of like a stripper, but they're not stripping and they're not sleeping with you or anything, but kind of in that same realm. Like kind of like, I mean, if you watch like when she's in the club dancing, the whole montage.
Mm-hmm.
But like, what's your name? You know, which
Oh,
I love
yeah.
that part where they keep doing like, what's your name? That's a beautiful name, and she goes, she starts laughing at this, just the repetitiveness of it all, how stupid, like, and how empty it all is. But I noticed that poster on her wall, so I was like, well, she's seen something that's a little more based in reality than Breakfast at Tiffany's or all these other movies she's into. But I really love that whole theme of we have this romanticizing of the past. People talk about time travel. Man, I wish I could go back to then. I wish I could go back to then. I was like, you're thinking of what you've heard, but not what the reality is. And I think that's what this movie kind of. Edgar Wright himself says he's been fascinated with the '60s because that was his parents' era, and he loved the music and he loved all the movies and he loved his parents' stories. But I think his mom told him a story of going to Soho with her friend in the '60s and how they were stalked and chased out by some creepy men. So I think that's what's really cool. Sometimes we do, like in the '80s, they all romanticize the '50s. You know, I remember a huge romancing of the 1950s when I was a kid, and how that was a better time. It's this whole "Make America Great Again," all this kind of mentality that the past was better and more pure, more wholesome, and it really wasn't. You know, horrible shit was still going on behind closed doors or even out in the open. But you know, this is fake image of the past that we've bought into, and I think that's what's cool about this film is it exposes that, you know, it's not a safe place, not a good place.
Yeah, because I mean, the beginning of the movie, she's all about wanting to go to London, Ellie.
Yeah,
and you know she's so excited, and even her grandmother seems a little bit timid about that. You know,
now here's what I read, and I don't know if you guys read that, but I took it as Ellie's mother committed suicide, right? And she jumped off the bridge. Okay, I think Ellie's mother was raped in the city and had her, and I think her mother was so depressed she jumped off the bridge. She couldn't live with that, and I think that's what it is. And because the grandmother calls her up later and says, if you need help, ask for it. She didn't. Saying your mother didn't. She didn't say your mother, but she said she didn't. So I think her grandmother is afraid that the same thing will happen to Eloise that happened to her daughter. But she's torn because this is Eloise's dream to go to this school and follow that dream of being a fashion designer.
Yeah, and let's talk about when she does get to London. Like the one thing that that sticks out to me right away is what you said. You get smacked in the face by reality, and I mean the cab driver right away, which he's kind of being friendly and creepy at the same time. Yeah. You know, are you a model with those legs? You could be, you know. And then she goes into the little, you know, grocery store, whatever it is, and watches him till bodega. Yeah, and you know that right there is country girl coming to the big city for the first time. You know, that's exactly what that is. And then she meets this roommate that's gonna, you know, seems like they're gonna click really well, and this she's just the worst person ever. You know, like it's just bad, and then some guy takes her Coke. You know? He even had her name
Coca-Cola, or should I clear?
Yeah, right. But he made up for it.
Yeah,
he made up for it.
Yeah, you're right. Like
her roommate was doing coke, but not her.
Yeah, but you're right. Like, you know, she tells this cab driver that I've got, you know, I'm going to this prestigious school. This is a career, and of course, he's just like, well, you're a pretty girl. You should be a model instead. You know, like women and a lot of the men's eyes in this movie are meant to be wind-up dolls, puppets on a string, pretty to look at, do what I want you to do.
Reminds me of Just One of the Guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
She wanted to be taken seriously for her article. He's like, you got a great body. It's a teacher. Like, dude.
Yeah, you should be a model.
It's okay, guys. She has tits.
Yeah. Where do you get off having tits? I love that line in that movie, by the way. Where do you get off having tits?
That's what I think they are.
Yeah, I love that movie. That's one of my favorites as a kid.
I haven't seen that.
My mom let me watch a movie like that. God. Looks like he dresses like Elvis Costello. Looks like Ralph Macchio.
Looks like the Karate Kid.
Yeah, there you go. Anyway, if we didn't have a horror show, I would talk about that all day. I love that movie.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I got a poster on in my downstairs 80s area. Of that.
You do?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. You're not going to walk into anybody's house ever and see that poster.
Just one of the guys poster. You will in my house.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Anyway, but yeah, she gets smacked, and then they have a party that night, and they go out to this bar, and some guy, it's just like I felt bad for her because she is an innocent, essentially.
Oh yeah, extremely innocent.
And yeah, and then she gets fucking. And the worst part is like this movie is just. It's a really good, compelling movie, but man, it's kind of a bummer, also. And not even just with Ellie.
With Sandy.
With Sandy too, yeah.
Because you see, when you see both introductions to those two characters, like Eloise, she's dancing, she's confident, she's full of life, she's happy, and she gets on the train, and there's you could tell it's rural because it's just her and one other person on the train, and it's just farmland.
Until she gets closer to London, yeah.
Yeah, people keep piling on, and it turns urban, and then as soon as she gets there, everything shrinks. She's small, she's afraid, she doesn't want to engage because the man already creeped her out when the guy, I can't remember what's the guy that takes an interest in her, his name, I can't remember his name.
What is his name?
He just said he needs some help, and she's like, no, I got it. Like, she's just already running away from men.
Defensive. Yeah.
And on the defensive, yeah. And I think we'll get to it later, but yeah, when we see Sandy come in, she's larger than life, and everyone's looking at her.
Well, I mean, that whole trip down the staircase, it's like how could all eyes not be on her? You know what I'm saying? And the way she's dressed, but kind of provocative for the 60s.
And it's like she feels the power, but at the same time, it's like what's going on inside the man's head.
Well, look at
that moment.
Look at Ellie in this image. She's staring at her. She's not looking around. Yeah, she's in awe of her. Not
face.
Yeah.
She becomes enamored with that, where she's trying to make that dress and recreate that in her classes. And everything. So Sandy becomes her muse.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Which is I thought was kind of cool. Hey, what's up, Isaiah? How you doing, man? But yeah, I do love the scene though. Whenever she goes in there for the first time, but Jocasta is which I didn't know was a real name because Jocasta knew is the librarian in the Jedi Temple in Star Wars.
That was a tidbit. Was Edgar Wright's name was going to be that if he was born a girl. That was.
Oh really?
Jocasta?
Yeah.
Right away though, she gives me vibes that I'm not. This character's gonna suck because she had her name scratched out, and she keeps calling everybody babes. But she's like, I don't want to use my last name because what does she say? Something about I don't know. I just thought about Madonna. It
was a brand thing. Like, how many other Jocastas have you ever met?
Yeah, I get what she's saying, but it's like I already know I'm not gonna like her, and she's the worst.
But
she's got to be warm. So brave. That's the God. The whole God. I hate people that
so brave.
That. It's not a competition, but it was a competition to her. Like everybody was, like fawning over Ellie's mom passing committed suicide, and both their moms died. The other one died of cancer, or whatever.
You're so strong.
Yeah. And she just steals her thunder because she's got to be alpha number one bitch.
I had a great uncle that died from that too.
Yeah,
I know what you feel.
Yeah.
What? No, it's your fucking mom. No.
Yeah, that's not the same. Trust me. Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, so you get to meet, and that's really the only girl that you really get to know a little bit, and then the other girls just kind of like, fall upon her. But the best part is, it pushes Ellie out of that environment to get her into Riggs' house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I can't remember her name from. I have it pulled. I have the
Diana. Alexandra. Yeah.
Yes.
Alex for short. But yeah. So like you get the vibe that she was only there in the dormitory for like maybe 2-3 days before she was like, I'm out.
Hey, somebody steals your Coke, you're out of there. Somebody pulls your headphones off and says, "Oh, you're listening to that grandma shit. You're out of here."
No, yeah, that guy can get fucked.
He can totally get fucked. Don't judge somebody on what they listen to, their music.
Oh man, that was some of the best music of all time in that era.
What song was she listening to at that point? Because it was, I remember it was
when she goes in the party.
Yeah, because it was a good song if I remember correctly.
I could probably I got the soundtrack in here.
That's one thing Edgar Wright has gotten right in every single one of his movies. He always has good songs.
Yeah.
Even going back to Shaun of the Dead, like he always had good music in his movies.
I think it was Starstruck, the Kinks.
Okay. Yeah.
Starstruck, baby. I think that might have been the one.
Yeah, it's something from the 60s, that's for sure.
No, that was another scene. That's when that's another one.
There's one song that I didn't know that came out before it actually, the one that was more well known, and I can't think
songs have been like covered back in the 80s and stuff.
I think it was George Harrison covered it.
It got Set on You.
Yeah.
Set on You. I didn't realize that was a cover.
I didn't either. I thought that was a Harrison original from the 80s.
Yes.
Like, I love that song from the 80s. Oh, wait.
I started singing along. I was like, wait, what is this?
And there's always something there to remind me.
Mm-hmm. Wait, that was in there too?
Yeah.
I gotta rewatch it. I just rewatched it last night and today, a little bit today.
So much good music in this movie.
So anyway, we get to, I keep saying so anyway, and I apologize. We get to meet, the landlady in this charming place. I love it smells like garlic all the time.
Get used to that.
The French people cook with all that garlic.
People, There's a French store next. Anyway, God damn it, I said anyway again. I'm trying not to do it. But anyway, it's a shot time. Anytime Ray says anyway. So yeah, I like that whole interaction with the landlady, or Ms. Collins is what she's known, and I like her rules. Don't do your laundry after or too late or whatever. No men after 8. She's got all these specific rules, and they're for a good reason.
Yes.
Excuse me.
Don't dig up the floorboards.
I was talking about this with Beth last night. She was giving these, it feels like you're in another dormitory, but she's doing this to protect her, I think.
Yeah.
Because we didn't know it at the time, obviously, but she had gone through all of that, but that's why she has these rules under her roof. Like, that's what kind of got me towards the end, is like, she's not the psychopath that we think. We'll go into that later, but it's
a complicated ending.
She was definitely there to protect her, regardless, because she was a girl by herself. Like, I don't want men in this house because, obviously the stuff she went through, but gosh. All these feelings.
You could spoil it. You can say whatever you want. You don't have to hold back.
I'm not.
This is an open conversation for the most part, about this movie, because there's a lot to cover, and we're already half an hour away from having to stop. Let's talk about that stuff. Let's get into that, because we can talk about these other categories at the same time. The cinematography, which is really pretty great in this movie.
Amazeballs.
Oh yeah,
cinematographer it's the first time he's worked on them. It's Chung Hoon Chung, who shot most of Park Chan Wook's movies. So he shot Old Boy, Lady Vengeance, Stoker,
What?
The Handmaiden. So he's a South Korean cinematographer who worked with arguably one of the very best filmmakers of the last 20 years.
Oh yeah, fucking love Stoker.
Yeah. So, and he shot on 3. I think he did at least like 7 or 8 movies with Park Chan Wook. So, and he's done a bunch of other stuff as well. But yeah, the cinematography is beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then we've been commenting on the direction of Edgar Wright this whole time, but yeah.
Like one thing I wanted to point out about the direction as part of my segment was the cool thing about Edgar, and he always was doing it, but especially in like Scott Pilgrim and Baby Driver, and then in this, he doesn't take the easy route on anything. He really tries. Almost every shot is a complicated achievement, like the stuff with all the mirrors. I mean, there's so much work with mirrors in this.
Yeah.
Where you're having, and he's trying to do as much of it as possible in camera. So, like you said, the first time you see her in the mirror when they first see each other, they're mirroring each other, they're mimicking each other.
Yeah.
And then the guy that's taking
this
care
isn't
of
that scene, but it's pretty close.
Yeah, but in the scene, it goes like a waiter or something, take a maitre d' or whatever. They cast 2 twin brothers to play the part. So both.
Oh, really?
On both sides of the actresses, on both actresses. And then when they do the big dance scene, which we talked about, they're doing it practically. Now they would have probably shot this separate, which is
separate. They would have had to have shot this separate.
Yeah, because they would have done a pass with her coming down. They would have done a pass with Mackenzie coming down.
In reverse,
the camera guy. What's amazing is the camera guy is the camera operator is having to mimic the same movements every time.
Yeah,
and usually because what you would usually do is you would have it like on a probably robotic, like a crane or something where it would always be the same exact movement, like radio controlled.
Yeah,
but the cameraman's actually got it on him like a rig, and he's just muscle reflex, like getting the exact same shot. I don't know how the fuck he did it. But a lot of it is as much as they can do in camera, they're doing it.
But how do you shoot the mirrored image? Because it's
right here. You would mask. You would mask right, like basically you would create a mask there to cut out Thomason, who would be where Anna is, or Anya Joy, whatever. Joy. And it's still what you got is 2 shots here, and one's masked and they're laid on top. One's laid on top of each other, and you mask her out.
Yeah, so, that's crazy.
Yeah, so there's a lot of it's all this trickery and smoke and mirrors, and then like the dance scene. There's only like I think 1 shot in the dance scene where they're switching, where it's like her and then it's her and then it's her. There's only one that's CGI, but a lot of it's in camera, and all of it's like what they call Texas switch, which they do with stunt people a lot, where he'll swing her around, and the other actress is like ducked beneath, and then that actress ducks, and then she comes up and grabs them, and they'll just keep doing that, like 3 or 4 switches in 1 shot, and it's all in camera. It's not CGI. It's not a trick. It's
they had to be bouncing up and down to get out of the camera angle.
If you really watch it, you can tell when they dip down.
That always fascinates me. Those shots like that when they do that Texas shift,
Texas switch.
That's crazy.
Because I was just watching a video on Wizard of Oz, and they did that Texas switch, which I didn't know about. Like in the Wizard of Oz, where she comes out of the house and it's in sepia, and then Dorothy walks out into Oz and it's color, and it's all in 1 shot. Mm-hmm. They painted the house to be sepia, and they had a double in a costume and everything in sepia costume and makeup. And as she opens the door to the color of Oz, because it all isn't real there,
right?
The double kind of steps off as the door opens, as the camera moves in, and then Judy Garland in color walks out the door. So
man!
Yeah, so the one opening the door is a double.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Judy Garland walks out.
Yeah, because that's such a tight shot in Wizard of Oz. You know?
So you
Wow.
get those type of cool things where that's what he does in this movie. Like I'm looking at, like he doesn't take the easy route in anything. Like Baby Driver, like the stuff he was doing in Baby Driver, where he would pick a song and then he would edit the movie to the song. Like so, like Gunfire is matching the percussion in the song or something like that. Like you're like, wow, it's fucking amazing, you know. And so that's what I love about him is his editing, his transitions, his shot choices are always so interesting. Watch Scott Pilgrim; he's doing so many interesting things there. And I think he's one of the most exciting filmmakers out there. And a lot of that stuff just that goes unnoticed by the common viewer, but that's what I get really excited about when I see his films. And he does a lot of really, I just like, I love the murder scene where you see her eyes in the blade as it's flashing, stabbing, and little things like that. Yeah, that image there.
Yeah, that was super cool.
But that's the cool thing about Edgar. And then like another thing he did I'll bring up is they used old anamorphic lenses for the 60s stuff to give it that 60s look where you get the shallower depth of field and it kind of gives it a more dreamlike look because you get the kind of the bokeh and everything. So yeah, he's a fantastic filmmaker, and this movie didn't get a lot of people looked at this movie as a failure or one of his worst, and I don't get it, but I think he's in that category of filmmakers who haven't made a bad movie. I know you don't like Shaun, but it's not that Shaun of the Dead's a bad movie.
It's not the movie.
You got tired of it because someone overplayed it.
No. Shaun of the Dead's a fine movie. It's shot well. It's funny. Good actors. You know, it's got old, so it's hard for me to watch it.
Overplayed. It's like I always say, it's like Hotel California, man. It's on the radio every 5 minutes, and I can't stand it. It's like I've heard that song 1 million times. It's like, or you shook me all night long, stuff like that. It's just
anything AC/DC. I can't do it. I can't. So, but yeah, no. I mean, Baby Driver to me was a fine movie, but the thing about that movie that gets you is the driving scenes and the music with the So I get that. But like, yeah, I don't think I've seen a bad movie from Edgar Wright overall. Just because I have a hang up with Shaun of the Dead, that doesn't matter. I think I've seen pretty much everything he's done for the most part. But anyway,
you talk about that puppet on a string scene, because I really do like that scene a lot.
Do what now?
The puppet on a string scene.
I do too.
The song's so good and the whole thing, but what I love about that whole scene where she sees the reality of what she's dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
I think that Ellie was coping with the bullying and all the shit that was going on at school because she felt special. Her teacher even says, "Hey, I hope y'all are listening. I hope you're paying attention." So she has a little power because she's actually really good at what she does and maybe better than these girls. And I think she knows that. And I think that's what she's holding on to, that maybe I'm special. And when she thinks that Sandy is special because she heard her sing. She's got talent. But now she sees her up on stage, not singing, but being like a backup dancer, scantily clad, and sees all that. So Sandy thought she was special, and Sandy's not special. That's what happens. And so I think Eloise starts to feel like maybe I'm not special. And it's after that scene that Eloise starts to stop taking care of herself, because after she sees Sandy, you start to notice she starts wearing makeup. She goes gets her hair done.
Gets her hair did. Yeah.
So she starts using confidence on Sandy, but when Sandy's specialness and glow falls down, she starts to spiral down too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. She starts mirroring, essentially what's going on. Yeah, that's for sure.
Starts wearing black.
The
color and everything.
Well, she starts being a little bit more crazy in a way too. Like she seems like she's starting to crack a little bit. Especially when she starts doing the research and all that good stuff.
Turns into Susie Sue. They play Susie Sue at the Halloween party. She's got the sort of goth makeup on.
Yeah, it's wild. It's one of the things I like about watching movies with deconstructions, or when characters kind of are a certain way from the beginning to where they become, and watching their fall or rise or whatever it is. And hers is really kind of crazy. And it's weird that like how I like when she the first time I watched it, whenever she was getting ready to go back home, and John, the guy that has that interest in her, asks her out after he gives her the Coca-Cola. I thought she's like, no, I got things to do. I'm like, yeah, you're gonna go back in the dream, or whatever it was, and
Yeah.
She had other priorities.
right, and part of me was like, yeah, that's cool because that's what I want to see. I don't want to see her go out on a date or whatever, even though that probably was what she should have done. I definitely want to see what's going to happen next with Sandy and these characters that we're starting to get to know. But yeah, there's a lot that happens after about the 45-minute mark, maybe, where she starts going down that path, and she ends up bringing John home and freaks out on him because of what she can see, because she's so
Crazy.
not crazy, sensitive, like an impact.
Yeah, I mean, it's a ghost story.
Essentially,
seeing ghosts. But she thinks the ghosts are a threat to her, but really
they're not, which is really cool because that's also kind of a twist.
Yeah.
You think that, and you think that as the viewer, she thinks that the ghosts are going after her, and no,
I saw a lot of people shitting on the movie because it was that on your thread on Horror Syndicate about the twist. I thought about
most
that.
People on the Horror Syndicate praised this, actually.
Well, it seems like you posted it somewhere. I don't know, it's on your page, but people were kind of, it sucked, or the first half's good, but a lot of people were shitting on the twist. Maybe it was, I don't know. I just love twist, and I thought about that. Like anytime someone says they figured out the twist early on, automatically that makes the movie shit to them, and I don't get that. Like, I get because look, you're not going to fool everybody. You're not going to a lot of people aren't going to catch the twist. Some are going to catch it right away. Some people are catch. That doesn't mean that the movie sucks and the filmmaker's stupid or just because you were able to figure it out doesn't make because that Bruce Willis is dead at the 15 minutes into Sixth Sense doesn't mean Sixth Sense sucks. But people do that. They'll say that.
I didn't know it.
I
thought I
didn't either.
I was like,
I didn't. I thought that Terrence Stamp was Jack.
Most of us,
and I thought he murdered.
Yes, I thought Terrence Stamp was the guy, the bad guy. Yeah,
I did too. I think we all did.
Yeah, I mean, plus the way he's acting,
a good misdirection.
Yeah,
because you only have that one conversation with the cop. And
the climax.
Are you a copper?
The climax was a little meh, but other than that, I love this movie
so much. He was so like Terrence Stamp too. It was
he was good.
When you realize that's him as a young man, you're like, damn, he does hit it. And I love a lot of his conversation with her there. Like he says, you're better than this. Mm-hmm. And she says, I don't think so. And he said, well, maybe you should look in the mirror. And she goes, maybe I don't want to look in the mirror.
Oh, here's the one you're talking about, Nate.
I love that scene because she breaks through the wall and grabs her glass and grabs her, trying to hold on to her. Like, look at me.
Yeah.
Save yourself. Look at yourself.
I think I found the comment you're talking about. It was on the Horror Syndicate. It says, Edgar Wright's weakest film in my eyes. It's serviceable, but the twist was obvious and had an identity crisis. Tried too hard to be like a giallo that doesn't have an identity of its own. I disagree with everything that person said.
I don't really. Do you really think this movie is a giallo?
It's
really?
not a giallo at all.
A giallo at all.
No, not even close. Jared, come on, you're the giallo guy.
I mean, it could be. It's stylized like Argento, but no.
Yeah, but a giallo is a straight up slasher. It's a mystery movie. Who done it? That's what a giallo is. This is not that at all. Like in ways, it's shot like one. I could see that, but I don't think it falls under that umbrella.
I don't think so either.
Yeah.
And then all the colors are kind of practical because they're either in the dream part or they're because of the sign outside of her window. Like Argento doesn't always explain why he's using all these colors.
Dude, I gotta tell you, that would get old. The light flash in different colors in my.
Man. Imagine sleeping with that every night.
Is this your comment? Brilliant. Edgar Wright could do no wrong. Oh no, John Shanks. I thought that was you, Nate. just joking.
I like the Terrence Stamp tells her she almost gets hit by the car a couple times. He's like, "Look out, girl!" And then he ends up getting hit. By
then he gets hit. Yeah,
right. Yeah.
I mean, there's Bryn Peterson, who's been following the Horror Syndicate since the beginning. Says great film, tons of style, and a nice tribute to the Giallo. And the soundtrack is fantastic. See, most of the stuff people are saying good things about. Favorite horror of 2021, meh. Nathan Rose. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's a great movie, and I think overall, this is going to be one of those ones that's gonna, if we get to, do the Horror Syndicate Discourse 2029 final episode, we'll do a top 25 of the decade. I think this will be in the top 5, in my opinion, in my eyes.
Yeah, I think it's one of the best of 2021.
Yeah, I think it's one of the best of the decade so far.
I wrote down one of these other lines that I really liked. Yeah, it's definitely 2020 so far. It's in the top. It's up there. I like the line where he's talking to her. It says, at the end of the day, you all look the same on the slab.
Yeah.
Because so many of these, he's seen so many of these girls have this happen to them.
That's one of the things about this movie was Terrence Stamp, man. Still, like I said earlier, he's still bringing that performance at damn near 85 years old. He's still such a powerhouse performer without having to say much. I loved seeing him in this movie.
And we all thought he was Jack right at first.
Yeah, Jack the Stripper.
Should we jump into that ending? Because I know Jared had some stuff to talk about.
Oh yeah,
we got
definitely
14 minutes or so.
Yeah, Damn, time flies when you're having fun, guys.
Yes.
Yeah, let's get into the ending. Jared, you want to jump into that?
Yeah, we can. Obviously, the whole 2/3 of the movie was a great build-up. This may be a hot take, but I was very let down by the last third of the movie.
Really?
I was. I mean, once I found out Mrs. Riggs's, because when I was watching the movie for the first time, I thought it was her grandma that was Anya. And then it changed over to where you find out it's the lady who rents the building. And it just felt like a very cliche ending in the last 20 minutes. And that's not, I don't know. The movie was so awesome for like 65 minutes. And then she decides to poison her, and then you realize what's going on.
I'll admit, I think the third act is the weakest part of the movie, and it's not an ending that sends me out going, "Oh, that was fucking great." It kind of does lose its steam. I think it's also because it is such a melancholy, complicated finale because she's not a villain.
Right? No,
she did what she did because, as she said, these men put me through hell, and I sent them to theirs. And
she did what she had to.
I came here to be an actress, and as a horror, you are an actress. You're having to pretend like you enjoy these fucking.
I mean, we saw that whole thing go down with her. What's your name? That's a pretty name. All that stuff.
Yeah, which was great. I love the whole flashing. That was a good thing about the light changing because he's able to do the transition of her changing outfits, different men, same fucking conversation, same empty thing that they say, "Oh, that's a beautiful name. That's such a great name." Where it's at the point where she just starts laughing at it because it's just like, and then
laugh or cry at that point.
Yeah, so there's this horrible. So you got this villain who is trying to kill her, but only kill her because she doesn't want to go to prison. Because the girl knows her secret now and brought the cops there, but she had no ill intention towards the girl, and the reason she did her crimes is because these men abused her and destroyed her life and destroyed her dreams and robbed her of everything. And so it's this really melancholy ending and it's sorrow because she's dying. Like, I don't want to go to prison. I've been in prison my whole life. And sits there on the bed and burns to death. I mean, it's a.
Did you guys cringe though at that? Like, I was like, oh. Go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Dana. It is beautiful in a way, but go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's beautiful, but it's sad. But I think that's why, I guess, the feeling that Jared's explaining, the feeling I could kind of feel myself is a lot of times when we see movies, horror movies, we are waiting for a big payoff.
Yeah.
Like the bad guy gets his kind of thing, right? So we don't see a revenge or a comeuppance of the bad guys. The bad guys were killed 50 years ago or 60 years ago. And now they're kind of asking her for help us, save us.
Which I know, but the way the way they go about it, it's a little, come on, buddy.
Yeah. So yeah, there's kind of like this lack of satisfying ending, I guess.
I don't know. I thought it was good. I liked the ending. It wasn't great, I'll admit, but this was a movie that, like, in some ways, well, like both of you said it, the first 2/3 of the movie is so good, and it's one of those movies you're like, I like living in that world, like, and you can see why Ellie kept going back, because that world was so fascinating, and I probably could have watched this for 3 hours go on before the ending, because of except for whenever she started, finding out that she was a whore and all the hauntings. But that's also when the horror starts really kicking in, because I do remember watching this, I remember thinking to myself, the level of people, the horror these days is so small. What the fuck is horror about this movie? And then all of a sudden, all that stuff starts happening. Yeah. She goes on her downward spiral. Both of them go down on their downward spiral, and it's like, okay, I get it now.
And there is a possibility it was all just her madness, because like the first time she goes back to the 60s,
I thought that too.
Yeah.
The first time she goes back into the 60s, she's listening to Celia Black's "You Are My World," and Celia Black happens to be singing it in the nightclub that night.
Right. That was gonna be one of my questions. I had a couple questions which we've already answered, but I gotta play it. Let me just play it.
Not a bad question, Bert.
That was one of my questions. So, what was that movie? We did a movie not too long ago where you're like, is she going mad, or is this really happening? And that's something that I see played with a lot, and you kind of question that early on in the movie, especially when you see, she sees her mom.
And maybe her mom was.
Yeah, you don't know. I mean, is she sensitive? Because there are people who are empathic that can kind of feel things or maybe even see things, and then of course ghosts. So I don't know. I had a lot of questions when it came to that stuff, but throughout the show we've answered them. So I just wanted to play my intro. Jared got to see his. Nate, you didn't get to see yours. But anyway, there we go again. Who's drunk out there? For me saying anyway. Okay, so is there anything else you want to say about the ending, or do you want to do some? I do have, we've been doing the 5-star ratings on the Horror Syndicate, and we do have a audience score of 79%, which I don't think is bad, considering it's higher than Rotten Tomatoes score.
Is it?
Yeah, so that's 75 on Rotten Tomatoes. Yeah, so I don't think this is bad. I did rate this on my scale, and it was 83%. So
one thing I wouldn't bring up was the casting. Edgar brought this up to Anya Taylor-Joy on the festival circuit when she was doing The Witch. He met her
that long ago.
Wow. He told her about it. He hadn't written it yet, but he had the idea. He was telling her all about it, and she was going to play the Eloise part. But by the time they were doing the movie, he felt that she had played those kind of parts before, that it would be more interesting to have her play Sandy. He goes, because she kind of looks like she could have been a big star in that era. She has this look about her that she could have been a star in the 60s. She could have been a star in the 30s or the silent era.
I
But
totally
even
see
so,
that.
even so, she kind of does resemble her. The cheekbones, the nose, I think she does anyway.
Yeah.
A little bit.
The eyes, not so much, but yeah.
No, but the nose and the cheekbones. But that's really crazy. This is also 2 years in a row that she was a whore or a call girl. So, in the menu. I love that movie. I've watched it twice now, or 2 more times since I watched it originally. It's just a fun movie to watch. The Menu. If you haven't checked it out, check it out. Not you guys. I think you both watched.
Have you seen Triangle of Sadness yet?
No, I just noticed that on Hulu the other day.
You might dig it. It's a good coupling with The Menu.
Okay. Are we talking horror or are we talking just a movie?
It's more drama comedy of like class systems and the servers and the rich. The stinking rich kind of. And Woody Harrelson's great. He's the ship captain. It's like this nice yacht. All these rich people are on this yacht, and the people taking care of they're just entitled people on the yacht. And I don't want to give anything away, but
don't give anything away because I'll probably watch that one.
It's streaming on something right now.
I think it's on Hulu because I believe I saw it on there. But I will make sure to watch that when I watch Assault on Precinct 13. And
whatever. You're not fooling me, sir.
No, what's the other one, Nate, that you mentioned the other day that I need to watch?
I don't remember.
Damn it, Nate! I can't remember either. All right. Anything else we want to mention before we do our final thoughts? And I will unveil next week's topic.
What is it?
I'll tell you after we do our final thoughts. So let's do your final thoughts, Nate.
It's not my favorite Edgar Wright movie, but again,
what's your favorite one? Is it Baby Driver?
Baby Driver,
okay.
Definitely
fun movie.
Probably.
I didn't like the end of that movie though, but anyway.
I don't know. Yeah, it's great. It's got a great cast. 2 of our strongest young actresses, I think. Beautiful cinematography.
Yeah.
Amazing soundtrack.
Mm-hmm.
Great time travel movie. Mystery. Yeah, and again the smoke and mirrors magician like filmmaking that he decides to employ. He doesn't try to do things the easy way. He challenges himself to do things in camera that are complicated and take a lot of work, and he storyboards every shot. And it's just it take that kind of discipline. I respect in a filmmaker, and I'll be watching anything he does. Hopefully, opening weekend for as long as he keeps doing.
I may as well say that too, because 1, I've seen everything he's done. 1,000 what?
1,000. I agree.
Okay.
Not like 100. 1,000.
Yeah, Jared. What's your final thoughts on this one?
I mean, Nate hit the nail on the head. Like, it has an amazing soundtrack. Like, it really gives you the feel of living what it would be like in the 1960s. I was talking with Beth the other night when I was watching it. I was like, this is one of those movies.
Speaking of,
my fiance.
I'm joking.
My fiance.
I'm just joking.
Anyways. But no, like, this is one of those movies, like, Nate kind of alluded to it earlier in the podcast. This is one of those few times where you actually feel like I could have lived in this time. Yeah, it wasn't great. It wasn't perfect. But the music, the dresses, like, we still wore suits back then when we went out on the town.
It probably would have been great for all 3 of us because we were men. But
I do miss that people used to actually care how they looked when they left the house.
Exactly.
That's what I mean. Yeah. It's out of the house. I'm just saying,
Nobody's wearing their pajamas.
You know what? Fine. From now on, we're going to have a mandatory dress code. Everybody on the horse wears a suit, a tie. That's the show from now on.
It's like that. There's a great. What's that? There's a song. I can't remember the artist. Today or something like that. He goes, "I don't want my best dressed day to be in a casket."
Oh,
I fucking love that line.
yeah, that's a good line.
Yeah.
I don't know the song, but that's a good line.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jared. Sorry.
But he kind of gave you those flashy moments where it is the nicest, but then obviously it is still a man-driven world at this point. But overall, I mean, we already discussed the cinematography and stuff. Like, it is a fucking really good movie. Like I said, the last 15 minutes kind of threw me for a loop because it just felt kind of like a I don't know what the word is I'm looking for. It did feel a little bit generic.
Yeah.
Not that there's anything wrong with that, but it's just the way that it was done. Like, you had this amazing original idea going, and then all of a sudden it's just like, okay, I mean, it is kind of a drawback to Psycho. So I mean, it is like you're not completely surprised when it comes, but at the end, I just felt a little bit underwhelmed, I guess. But overall, I give the movie like a 4 out of 5. Like, it's still an amazing movie. It didn't capture me for the last 10 minutes or so, 15 minutes, I guess.
So we're gonna have to revisit Neon Demon then very soon. Because, like, first of all, I haven't watched it since the one time I watched it, and you say this is better, but you love Neon Demon so much, you son of a bitch.
I do.
All right. What's that?
Nicholas Winding Refn, another filmmaker.
Yep. So I don't really have much to say. I really do like this movie. The ending didn't bother me. Ending was cliche. Okay.
Which is kind of what I was alluding to, but I didn't want to say that word.
Before I get to next week's topic, you can say whatever you want, my friend. You're my friend, and I love you. And I love that you're wearing a salmon-colored sweater. But on Friday, Seth will be back with me, and we were finally talking about his favorite Friday the 13th, Jason Takes Manhattan, and we will be doing our scores and all that stuff. Hell yeah. So we'll be throwing punches at each other. Because
you missed.
Yeah,
totally missed.
Totally missed. But Jason Takes Manhattan's on Friday. Me and Seth on Up All Night. Also, I wanted to throw these out here real fast. These were not that. I'm going to throw that out there and miss. This is the final tally for the Scream 5-star ratings. So Scream 1 and Scream 6. It's too new to be 84%, but yeah. That's what they came out to be. If you guys are interested in seeing them at all, and if anybody who watches wants to know, that's what they came out to be.
Scream 4 is pretty high.
No, Scream 4 is awesome. Anyway, take a drink. Next week, we are going to stick with a newer movie, and we're going to talk about one of my favorites from last year. Anybody guess? Any guesses? Any guesses?
I don't know.
How about Pearl? Is that okay with you guys? We're not talking about Pearl. I've been itching to watch it again, and I would definitely want to talk about this. And I think we'll follow up the following with X, because I think we could definitely get into Pearl and X. And both of them are surprisingly, well, X not so much, but Pearl has surprisingly been embraced by the horror fandom that I can tell. A lot of people seem to like Pearl. I really enjoyed it. Saw it in the theater with 3 other people, and one guy was snoring the whole time. It's like, you son of a bitch. Don't snore in this movie.
Where's Campbell to yell at him?
Yeah. But anyway, so that's next week. Friday the 13th, we're back on that. Are these going to be horror-adjacent films on Wednesday? No, these are horror films on Wednesday. There's horror-adjacent. I don't know what that even means.
Horror adjacent sometimes on Wednesday or Fridays, I guess. Which are still horror movies.
Yeah, horror adjacent is the same thing as horror. Anyway, we'll be back next week with another show talking about Pearl. And I'll talk about how much I love Ty West's movies, including House of the Devil is one of my favorites in the past 25 years. And Innkeepers is pretty good, and The Sacrament. If you haven't seen those, check them out. Yeah,
Jonestown.
Jonestown. Yeah. Anyway, that's the show for the week. We will see you next week. Have a great weekend. Make sure you watch Pearl and watch a bunch of horror movies because horror is good for you.
Such sights to show you.
Hell yeah.